Hi, I'm Sara Duncan.
My name is Cameron Powers.
My name is Frank Lee. I'm the Vice President of Operations.
I am the Vice President of Communications.
I'm the Vice President of Scholarship
Here with the Popeye chapter
at Jefferson State Community College.
My background is foster care. I grew up in the system, bouncing from home to home. I lived in 13 different states, 27 different school systems. I never had a friend for more than a year. So living all across the U.S., I experienced all sorts of food and foodways.
My background, I live in a small town named Vandover, Alabama. It's primarily farms. There are more animals than people is the joke I love to make. It is a tight-knit community where pretty much everyone knows each other. The older generation knows almost all the younger generation and vice versa. I love a lot of comfort foods such as fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens.
My background is much different than how I turned out in adulthood. I was born in a small town, Pell City, Alabama. Grew up in a home that was predominantly Southern Baptist, very religious. Grew up on an old peanut farm. As I grew up, I ended up traveling quite a bit in adulthood. Left Pell City, traveled a lot of places with the military and for different jobs. Somehow found myself back in Pell City and sort of brought new experiences, new things that I got to experience back with me for me to pass to my daughters and to my family for them to try as well.
So the food that I want to eat is very different from what most Southern Alabamians would enjoy. I have several dishes that I implement into my own home because of the homes that I have been in. I've lived in a couple of black homes, and their fried chicken recipes are the best, and I don't want to sound stereotypical, but at Thanksgiving, we don't really do ham or turkey, we do chicken. I have a love for cooking and a love for creating, and that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about some of the homes that I had up north is that we would cook dinner together, and we would eat dinner together, and then we would fight over who would dry the dishes because nobody wants to wash the dishes.
Well, I attended a Catalyst convention in Orlando where I was exposed to a vast array of different cultures. It's particularly one of the events that I really loved was where we went to a large group of food trucks. It was my first time actually trying Thai and Mexican food combined. It was actually very interesting and I really enjoyed it. Lately I've been really enjoying cooking orange chicken and modifying it, like I said, just adjusting it every time, taking a base recipe for traditional orange chicken and just making it my own. I like adding jalapeno peppers. It adds just a tiny bit of kick without overpowering the rest of the recipe.
While traveling out there, got to experience a lot of not only ethnic foods from a variety, but a lot of fusions of different ethnicities. One of my favorite fusion foods that I tried was at a small little restaurant out in San Diego. They had a Korean and Hawaiian fusion. It was made similar to a poke bowl, which of course is a traditional Hawaiian dish, but they combined these elements and they did it in a way that you got the elements of the tropical flavors from the Hawaiian, the pineapple and everything, but you also got those Asian flavors and like the teriyaki. Very interesting place.
So we have a constant building on our own family recipe book, and my biological children and my foster children all take part in creating that book. We have like a scrapbooking thing going on. Sometimes if it's a new recipe and we do it together, we kind of build this recipe, taking pictures as we go. So along with the recipe is also like the first time we made it and the messes that we've made with it. The recipe book is a physical item that I do intend to pass down to my children, but not until after I have fun with my grandchildren first.
Well, particularly, I have a book of my great-grandmother's recipes that I first used whenever I started cooking. It was something that my mom introduced me to, and my grandmother as well. And I've since then incorporated a lot of those recipes into my normal day-to-day cooking. So my favorite recipe is actually her barbecue sauce. It takes a more of a tangy spin, which is my favorite kind of barbecue sauce, and I've actually modified it a little bit to fit mine and my family's tastes. I have added a couple of recipes to my brain, and eventually I will add them to the book for future generations.
I have quite a few physical items that I plan to pass down to my daughters. One of them is a set of cast iron cookware that was inherited from my grandmother. My memories go back to her always making breakfast, and of course, being in the South, her making cornbread in the iron skillet. You know, that cookware set kind of stood out to me, and it's something that I can't use without thinking of her and thinking of my mother who passed, who also had this set.
So in my family, one of the legacies and traditions that we have started is called the No Thank You Bite. And that is where I force my children to try a food that they've never tried that is absolutely yucky, and then say no thank you if they don't want to pursue the dinner. Very rarely do they not eat their dinner. An inspiration for starting that is I constantly hear, no thank you, that's yucky, I don't want to try it, I don't want to eat it, it has such and such in it, or it's orange, or it's yellow. And some of those colors are yucky to children.
Well, before COVID, me and my friends would all get together one day a week and we'd have a game and movie night where we would also cook. And we'd have a little cooking competition. We played multiple games. We played stuff such as Risk, but my favorite was Snake Oil. It was around 8 of us at a big round table. We had just finished eating. And if you don't know what Snake Oil is a very, very fun game where you get cards. And you are trying to sell this item, right? And this item is comprised of 2 cards. So for instance, you may have a murder rock. And you are trying to sell to this caveman your murder rock and get him to choose you, and if you get chosen, you get a point.
I don't have a specific recipe. I wish I had a recipe for lasagna that I really love that I could pass down. I'm gonna eat all the lasagna in the world, just call me Garfield until I find one.
2 recipes that I hope the future generations will carry with them are my grandmother's cornbread and then my mom's mac and cheese. I hope to add a couple of my own dishes to that, but I really want to fine-tune them and get them to where I'm really happy with them.
One of them is shrimp and grits. I have a shrimp and grits recipe that I learned from my aunt. She ran a catering business down in Mobile for about 40 years. And she taught me how to cook a lot of the things that I know how to cook. Shrimp and grits was one of them, and that was one of her most famous menu items. Every time I've ever made it, it's always been a big hit, and my daughters love it.
I envision my food legacy in helping children build their confidence in finding something that they enjoy and starting and trying new things. I also hope to instill in my children that everybody is welcome at the dinner table.
I want the people around me to realize that different foods, particularly different ethnicities, are something that really should be incorporated in everyone's diet and everyone's daily life.
I hope that future generations will identify with my food traditions because of them being open to trying new things. Hopefully they will think of some flavor that I've cooked for them or that they've had because of a dish that I introduced them to. Mainly that it makes them appreciate how big the world is and to experience the flavors and sides of it.